friends, my name is Joey. I'm so glad you're here. This is my series that I'm so excited about right now for 2025, and this is the 5th video in the series. It is called Pearls Reimagined, not your Nona's pearls. And today we're going to be making a really cool necklace. We will be needing our bench block, and I have been using a ball peen hammer. I have found that that really works great for this, and I'm making a beaded chain that is a hammered link, artisan, very organic. I just absolutely love the way this is looking, and I will need 2 sides of my necklace. So my first side is done. I will be also using some little Potomac pearls, some little 3mm pearls, and these beautiful seed beads are something I had left over from BEADED beads, and they are the Duracoat galvanized seed bead in an 11-0 in champagne, and they're going to be in 2 parts of my project. So let me just reach behind me because I kind of laid everything in a tray. I'm going to be making some drops for this necklace. So one side of the necklace is going to have this beautiful Baroque stick pearl. It's so gorgeous. It's gorgeous on both sides. This is 22 gauge wire, and I will be using my soft flex wire in 2 gauges. I'll be using the 22 gauge and the 20 gauge in gold. And it does have an anti-tarnish coating. For some of the things, that's really great. For the chain part that I'm going to make, we're going to hammer it. So that disturbs the coating, so you can't even see it, but I have already, on the side that I finished, I have already just gone like this with my Permalac coating and just brushed it on each one of those links because I hammered both sides. So I want it to stay nice and shiny. But I have also made a couple of little components, and there is a video for this. This video will air probably 3 weeks past where this video went up, but I showed you how to make spiral beaded beads super easy, no needle and thread, using the same wire. So this is going to be 1 drop on my necklace, and then my little beaded bead, and then I am using these Rondelle chocolate pearls. They are so good for the Pantone color of the year, Mocha Mousse. And so that's going to be 1 drop on the necklace. And then in the same video where I did that, I showed you how to do this. So this is going to be the drop on the other side of my necklace with another one of those little components. And you guys, these beads, I have to say, these are stunning beads that we got in the mystery design kit from Soft Flex Company. The Radke beads that were in that kit, there were 2 of them. They are artisan made. She's a dichroic artist that she makes her own beads. She does all kinds of sculptures. She has a studio. She's a wonderful artist, and there were 2 of those beads in our design kit for, I think it was the month of December. I'm a little like the timeline on when we got this. I think it was December. It might have been January, that's why I'm hesitating, but these beads are so gorgeous, and I quite love the spiral effect on these beads. So you'll see as we go on this that I have a spiral theme. So I'm making spiral links. I have these beautiful artisan spiral beads. I have my own spiral, my twisty treat beads that I call them, another form of a spiral. And so this is a theme. This is like the lines and designs of this piece are going to carry all the way through. And then also for this side, I've done this little stack. This is what I like to do, is take scraps of wire and play with my bead stacks to create my components. I needed to go down to 22 gauge wire to get through these disc pearls that are drilled in the middle, and these came from Dollar Bead Club. I haven't been able to find them anywhere else but Dollar Bead Club. So as always, check the description box if you are loving anything that you see, because if I know where I got it, it will be in that box for you. And then I'm just pulling things out of my little project tray. I had a whole strand of these 4mm check glass faceted rounds in this gorgeous gold. These are also from Dollar Bead Club. I love that website. If you are a member, everything is $1. And so I had a whole strand, and so these is what I've used for my chain, but also for the color of the year. This is such a pretty gold. It goes so beautifully. It freshens up the mocha mousse and brightens up the brown a little bit. So I may use the rest of those, but let me show you the main necklace. I'm still working out my pattern. So this is going to be a memory wire necklace, and I have done the memory wire glue on end caps, and I've only done one side. I used my E6000 glue for that, and I did this a couple days ago because I wanted it to be like really set up. And I have been playing with a stringing pattern, but I wanted to stop on this and make my chain because I'm thinking that I might incorporate some of my faceted beads. I want the design elements to carry through this part and all the way down. So if you haven't seen this style of a necklace before, I did a video like a year and a half ago on this style, and I gave them all away. I didn't keep any of them, and I really want this one for myself. So there's no clasp on this necklace, and this part here goes behind your head, and then, but you can turn it around too, but I will probably not wear it that way. And then my chains and my drops will hang in the front, and there's like a little open section at your collarbone. This style is so fabulous. If you wear a collared shirt, you can put this on the inside or outside of the collar. And as I said, if you want like a choker in the front of your neck, you can turn it around and have your chains and your drops hanging down your back if you have a deep scoop V-neck back sweater or something like that. So these are really fun, and they're so easy on and off. So the necklace memory wire that I'm using is the teeny tiniest. It is so thin. We got it in a bead box over a year ago, and this is a piece that I had left over, but I will link some necklace memory wire in the description box too. But I just mentioned how fine this is because I am able to string my 11/0 seed beads and my little 3mm pearls from Potomac Beads onto this memory wire, and the thicker, extra heavy duty necklace memory wire, you would not be able to do this. You would have to size up to larger beads. So for me, I just really liked covering the memory wire. For one thing, I want my piece to be gold, and I didn't have any gold necklace memory wire. So when I'm finished, you won't even know that I started with silver because it's going to be completely covered up with my end cap. Now, you can also turn a loop on the end and hang your drops from loops, but I just quite like the memory wire glue on end beads. I just think they look very professional, very jeweler, and you know, I really like it. So that's going to be the body of my necklace, and then I have already done, here's my other, there's what those little caps look like. Can you see it? It's got like a little well on one side, and it looks like a finished, you know, like the whole, I can't talk. The hole doesn't go all the way through like a regular bead. It literally is an end cap. So it looks really pretty. And I have already made, let me show you my little tray. I have a little tray here. So I've already made a few of the little components that we will need to make the other side of the necklace. Little S or scroll or spiral connectors for my handmade beaded chain. I started with some 20 gauge wire, and I don't even know what this measurement is because you could really choose any measurement that you want. I just chose a length that I thought looked good, and so it's about 1.5 inches. I started with about 1.5 inches of wire, and I just want to start with all my pieces the same. So I just did it this way. I just took my wire to get all my cuts, and I'm just cutting like this. And that way I didn't have to get a ruler out and measure. I'm not a measurer. I make my jewelry with my heart, but you can totally you can totally measure if you prefer doing it that way. But that's what I did to get all of my starting wires. And let me set this aside. And I'm just going to move these things up so we can work on the chain a little bit. So I want to start my chain for both sides of my necklace with one of the check glass components, and I also want to end each side with a check glass component with a simple loop. So I used my one-step looper for that, and I'll show you how I did that. But in between every single one of those components is one of my little handmade hammered spiral links. And the effect is so beautiful because, as you can see, they are artisan. They do not look machine made. The hammering, the turns, everything is a perfectly imperfect, and I quite love the effect. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I also think it's beautiful with the Baroque pearls and even the disc pearls, because they're not perfect. They are natural elements. They have a little bit different shape. There's different textures on each one, and even to go with the artisan dichroic handmade glass beads, like everything is perfectly perfect and perfectly imperfect and not perfect the way a machine would make it. So I quite love this little element in my handmade beaded chain, and it's also really joyful to make because you don't have to stress over anything. It literally doesn't matter if you mar your wire. It doesn't matter about your spirals being all exactly the same. It's so much fun. Just literally make them and enjoy them. And each one, however it turns out, is part of the design. So I really love this idea. So I'm just going to start on one end of my 1.5 inch piece of wire and just make a little spiral. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about marring your wire. The only thing you do need is it's a connector. So you need to have enough space in here that you can open your simple loop on your other components and add it in. So, that's the only thing, is don't make it so tight that you can't turn it into a connector. And then I'm going to come to the other end and I'm going to spiral in the opposite direction. So I went this way on this one. So on this side, I'm just going to turn it in the opposite direction. And again, just making sure that, I have enough space to connect with. And so we're going to hammer these, and if you are not familiar with hammering, it does change the molecular structure of the wire when you hammer. It makes it stronger. If you don't keep hammering too much where it becomes brittle, it will make it a little bit stronger. It's going to take the round shape of the wire and flatten it. And I'm also going to texturize it with some dents and kind of some purposeful marks. So I'm just pulling this together. And again, it doesn't matter for me. The way I've been doing mine is making sure that there wasn't a lot of space here in the middle. But when you hammer, I'll show you the difference. When you hammer, you spread everything out. So if you can see the difference, you will make a little bit more space when you hammer. And so the hammering, there's a couple little tricks that can help you. Because this is so small, there's no way to really hold on to it. And if you just pound like this, you're not going to have control, and your little component that you're making is going to go flying. So what I do is take my pliers, and in the center of my spiral, I hold it down, and then I can flatten, texturize. I use the ball side of my hammer, and so I just use my pliers for this, and I do want to do both sides. And I just keep going until I like the look. And if you change the shape a little bit, it's no problem. You can come back in with your pliers and adjust things, but you really want it to be whatever it is. You really just want to embrace whatever curly Q, whatever shape you get from this little piece of wire. And Just make sure it's flat, but you can also do that with your pliers. So that one is done. And as you can see, I have spots there to connect. So what I've been doing is taking one of my little components, opening the simple loop, adding it to one side of my curly Q component to come up with a name for that, and just close it really well. And at this point, I can straighten my loops and work harden. Come to this end and do the same thing. Open this, add this in, open it a little bit wider. It doesn't matter which one. The effect when you have connected all your pieces is so wonderful. So I'm just doing that the whole length, and that is my simple artisan hand hammered link chain. I think it is such a stunning effect, and it's so gratifying because after you make your components and get even a few connected, it is just lovely. And so that is what I did. And I have quite a few to make for the second side of my necklace. So I'm going to do all of that off camera, but I wanted to show you exactly what I did to create this stunning chain. I mean, it is absolutely stunning and so simple. I just really love the simplicity of this, but I love that it does look handmade, but it also looks very professional, very polished, and elegant too. And I just love that effect with the kind of natural pearls, you know, not the contrived perfect pearls. So just to show you, many of you have seen me do this before. I've made most of my components, but I do have a few left to make. So I am using my 2 1/4 millimeter one-step looper. I always say you can totally do your loops with your pliers, but when I have all of this, the twisting and a long beaded chain to make, this really saves my hand. Plus, I love that all of my loops are perfectly the same size, perfectly consistent. And I really love that. For one thing, even though my components that I'm hand hammering are misshapen and all not perfect, that's what adds a professional, very well made look. It's like controlled chaos. You're like embracing the imperfections, but the piece is purposeful and, you know, done very well. So to start off with, another piece of 20 gauge wire. And since I don't have any beads on there, I'm going to not put it through the guide hole because the tool makes a cut, a fresh blunt cut for you right there. And without a bead, you're just wasting like 1/2 inch of wire. So I'm going to let it make me a fresh cut, and it makes the loop. I'm maintaining control here. I'm not popping this tool closed. And then I'll close it. And now I can see the wires going off in that direction, but I'm going to pull it down, and that's my chance to smooth, warm, straighten the wire. And I can see now that this wire is centered right on that loop. So when I take the tool away, I have a perfect loop. Now, since I have a whole bunch to make, I'm going to keep the tool in my hand and not put it down and just keep going. And so I can get a beaded chain done really quickly like this. So the one-step looper always makes your loop going in an upward direction. And on this project, on this particular one, I want all my loops going in the same direction. So my opening is here. So now this time I will use the guide hole, put the wire through, gently close the tool. That is much too close. I will break this bead. So I just want to back it out like 1 millimeter or so. Now I can see that there's no pressure being put on my little check glass faceted round. Let the tool make that cut for me, and same thing, I'm going to pull this down as I close the tool, and now these loops are perfectly lined up. If they were misaligned, you can come in at this point with your pliers and, you know, just make it how you want it. But honestly, I'm opening and closing every single one of these simple loops anyway to connect them to my chain. So I am not going to worry about putting my pliers, you know, to all of those loops, because when I make my chain, when I do that connecting, that is when I will, you know, work hard and close every loop. So like that one was open a little bit, but that's fine. When I make my chain, as I said, that's when I will make sure everything is perfectly closed, a little bit of work hardening. So with the one-step looper, I can make a beaded chain really quickly and without hurting my hand. But like I say, you can totally do this project with just your pliers if you don't have this tool, or, you know, some people just haven't had success with it. But that's what I did for all of these little components. And the other thing is I measured my chain to be about 12 inches. So on my necklace, on my necklace, and now I've put everything on the mat for you to see, but it's going to attach right here by one of those simple loops after I get this beaded, and I'm going to have 12 inches of chain hanging down on each side, and then I'm going to embellish the bottom of the chain, the final drops, with these gorgeous pearl elements. So that is that. I do have quite a few more of the little spirals to make for the second side of my necklace, but I need to decide here. Let me set some things out of the way, because before I do anything else, I need to decide my stringing pattern. So I was going to just do 16 seed beads and a glass pearl, 16 seed beads, but I think that I'm going to take these all off, and since I have extras of my check glass beads, I think I'm going to make a little bead station in my stringing pattern. Let me get my, oh, here it is. Sorry guys, I set my little bead tray aside. I'm going to put these right in here. So I think I'm going to create some little bead stations. I think I'm going to put one of these check glass rounds next, and then a pearl, and then another check glass round. Or do I want to do pearl? I have to play with my bead pattern a little bit, because I was thinking of doing that, but I could also do more pearls up here, but I kind of like that. And let's see, 2, 4, also 6, I pre-cut my memory wire before I started filming, but I didn't measure again. I always make my jewelry with my heart, and I know that some of you get frustrated with me because you want measurements, but I wanted quite a bit of space here, because I will most of the time be wearing this to the front. That's probably the way I'm going to wear it. So I wanted quite a bit of space here. So when I finish my pattern, if I need to trim anything off, it's going to be fine. I want to do whatever I need to do to have my pattern finish with 16 seed beads in the front, and then my bead stations being, you know, really nicely spaced out and uniform. So I'm going to do this stringing, and it'll just be a second for you, and I'll come back and show you how I put the little glue-on end bead on the memory wire. And I will say here that there is a new type of crimp called the snap crimps or magic crimps, and they are supposed to work on memory wire. I don't have one out here. Let me see if I do have it handy. Oh, here's one. Okay, so let me just show you what these look like. One of our friends in our community, her name's Janie Fadley. She's always in the comments. If you're a comment reader, I know you have seen her name. She and I have been corresponding about these crimps, and she's been successful at getting these to hold on memory wire, but I have not, and I think it's just because of the pain in my hand. But what you would do is put the crimp bead, I'm going to try to get my fingers out of the way too to show you, but what you would do is put the crimp bead on the end of the memory wire, and then this little button, so to speak, that's sticking out, you would smash it, and it looks like a round bead. But I love these, and I've been using them, and you'll see them in some of my videos coming up. But I wasn't successful. I think it's just that my hand is not strong enough to get it closed so that it really holds on the end. But that is another option to try if you prefer that to the glue on ends, and you can always just turn a loop. For me, that looks a little bit casual and a little bit boho, and that's not really the look that I was going for here. But I just thought I would share that with you because I get a lot of questions about crimping, and I know some people struggle with it, and there are more ways than one to do it, and that may help you. So check the description box because you'll always find links to everything that I'm using. If I know so many people message me about being new to jewelry making, and so they're just beginning to collect tools and supplies and, you know, build their stashes. And so my favorite things and the things you see me work with are always linked in my description boxes. You have to tap more and then more again most of the time because my boxes are so extensive. But I'm going to string, and I'll be right back. Okay, I had to change my pattern a little bit because I could see after I did a few inches that I was not going to have enough of my check glass faceted rounds to get to the point that I want to. So I backed everything off and restrung, and I'll show you what I did. I ended up doing 25 seed beads, and then my pearl station is pearl check glass pearl instead of the other way around, just so that I have enough to get over here, and that's what it looks like, and I think it's beautiful. I actually really like that because my check glass is almost the same color as my seed beads, and I actually really like having the extra little pearl up here. It, you know, it kind of alternates the two colors and they contrast, so it's really beautiful. So I am going to keep going like that with 25 seed beads in between each of those stations until I come to the end. Okay, that worked out really well to change my pattern, and I have that much memory wire left, so I am going to trim this a little bit before I glue my end on. Wait, that's a snub nose plier. I'm using my memory wire cutters because I don't want to damage my good cutters with this stainless steel cable. So I'm just going to guesstimate about where I want it. I don't need these beads to be super tight, but pretty tight. So I'm going to go, let's see, right about there, and just trim. I want to make sure I don't lose my beads. Okay, and what I used on my end is E6000 glue. I really like that, but it does take a little bit of time to set up. So I'm doing this part, and then I'm gonna, after I glue it and set it up, I'm going to move to my chain, to working on my chain. So this can be setting up before I come back to the necklace. So this part is just a little precarious because it's seed beads in position, and I'm just gonna get a dollop of this glue on the end of my memory wire. Just like that. That is way more than I need for that little end cap, but that's okay. And in order to get my fingers out of the way, I tend to use my pliers. And the thing I like about the E6000 is that I have time before it sets that I can adjust things, you know, how everything is sitting, and I can clean. As you can see, I need to clean some of this away. I always keep a little scraps of wire on the side of my table. That's one of the things that I use them for, is when I'm gluing a project. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit, and I want to make sure that this end bead that I'm gluing on, I want to make sure that it's not going to dry crooked. So, and the cool thing about the E6000, it's a little bit rubbery, so even after it sits and it's dry, in that excess, you can pull that away with your pliers or tweezers. So I'm just going to get this end bead exactly how I want it, make sure that I've looked at it from all angles, and I'm just going to lean it against my lamp here on my work table just like in that position, and just let that dry for a little bit while I work on my little swirly components and my beaded chain. Okay, it's perfect. It's sitting there drying, and I won't touch it until that's set up. And it sets up pretty fast where the end bead is not going to fall off, but I won't wear it until 24 hours. I'll make sure that, you know, it dries really well. And I'm going to go back to work on my chain here. As I said, I have quite a few more of these little spirals to make. My little bead components are already done, and I did end up with a few of my check glass beads left over. So I'm going to make my beaded chain, and when I come back, I will show you what I plan to do with this piece of 22 gauge wire that looks a bit long and this bead, and how I plan to make my final drops. I am on my very last spiral component, so I thought I would turn the camera back on and show you one more time how I'm doing these. And like I said, I'm grabbing it with even my round nose pliers, because since I'm going to hammer it, marring it doesn't matter. Oh, it looks pretty good. And now I'm just going to give it a little texture, flatten it. It doesn't take much. Just do a little bit on both sides. And I just like to look and see, like, if any part of it, like right there, needs a little more texture. And I'll come in with like the edge of my hammer if I want to give it a different texture besides the dents that you get with the ball peen side of the hammer. And like, I can see that this doesn't have very much texture on the middle, so I'm going to do that again with the edge of the hammer. And then I just take and do a little final, just a little final, close it up if I've spread it out with my hammering, and straighten it. And that's what I did on all of these guys. And now I am ready to assemble my chain. So this is the exciting and very gratifying part of this, is that I'm ready to just open every single one of these loops and make this chain. Oh, and I did start this chain already, so I can add this right in. Here's the little section that I already started when I was showing you what I was doing. So I'm just going to keep going, and this is like the really gratifying part, because all of my turning and twisting and hammering, is turning into a beautiful artisan beaded chain right before my eyes now at this point. Like, this is the easy part, and it just grows like from there. And these, like I said, I've already said this, but these components, these little hand-hammered, hand-scrolled little components, all together and connected by the check glass connectors, they are just beautiful and stunning. I just really love this technique a lot. I just think it's gorgeous. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, my second side of chain is all connected. So I have had this drying for about 45 minutes while I worked on this. And I'm not sure that it's ready to have much stress put on it, but the side that was already dry, I have added my chain here. And I had to do a little something. The 2¼ millimeter one-step looper makes a loop that is so large that, you know, it would slide over my beads on my necklace. So instead of redoing the whole component, I just went on this side right here, and I just came and removed about 1/4 of that loop and took my round nose pliers and just made a smaller loop on this one end for connecting to my necklace, so that when I put it in place, it's not going to slide around. I want my 2 chains on this piece, I want them to, you know, stay right at my little stopper bead. So I think that I can be brave and go ahead and add this one on. Let's see. I won't put a lot of pressure because it's the E6000 is set. But, you know, if I pulled on it at this point, it would probably still come off. And also, I didn't push my seed beads. Like when I trimmed, I didn't push my seed beads really tight against each other, so I can get that tiny bit of space for adding this in. Just really carefully. I don't want to put pressure on the end yet, as I said. I'm just gonna get it. I want one seed bead up against my stopper bead. That's what I did on the other side. And I'm gonna just lay that wire right in between and just get in there as carefully as I can and close it. Just pinch it closed. There we go. And I'll come and tidy it up a little bit. There. Okay. So this part is done, and you know, I did mine really long, and I also did both of my chains equal length because my final drops are going to be coordinating but different. But you can do these any length that you want. You can do them quite short if you prefer, but I like long necklaces, and I also wanted my beautiful pearl creations to be hanging down low enough that I can see them and play with them. And here's also why you see that I wanted to finish each length of my chain with one of my simple loop components, because I am just going to open my bottom 2 simple loops after I create my drops. So I'm going to let this guy hang out and continue to dry, and we will start with this little component here. Now I had to go down to 22 gauge wire to fit through the holes in these disc pearls. So I'm just going to take this stack off of here and just start out with a wire wrapped loop. I don't like to do a simple loop on 22 gauge wire if I can help it. Let's see if I'm going to have enough space here. So I'm going to start with a wire wrapped loop. Okay, now I'm just going to put my little stack of beads back on. And what I'm using here are gold-plated disc spacers, and I will link those below. And these beautiful pearls, I don't know where I got them. I had 8 of them in a little baggie, and I did not have them marked, but I love the chocolate color. I love the rondelle shape. I just thought it was perfect. And I love these pearls. I'm so crazy about these pearls. In my first video, I did earrings with these pearls. They're gorgeous. And finish with a coin pearl. How clever that it is drilled in the middle. So I'm just going to do the same thing, just put a wire wrapped loop in this end and do it in the same direction as the first one. Okay, just take a second to tidy up my loops and make sure my component is done. I love that. I absolutely love that. It's so pretty just by itself. So on this side, I have my spiral that I made here. It has a wire wrapped loop that I can't open. And so I'm going to use my component with the simple loops as my connector, and that's going to be my drop for one side. So I'm just going to open the simple loops on this component and add it to the ones that I can't open. Okay, that side is done. Isn't it pretty? I just love it. And so that's going to go on this side of my necklace. And so here again, simple loops at the bottom drop. So I can add that right on with ease. And you know, you could do jump rings. A lot of times, I'm a big fan of jump rings, in fact, and a lot of times I will like use a little jump ring for this connection and a little one for this one, but I didn't today. Get that to drop down in there. And work hard in a little bit with some force, and that little drop is done. Oh my goodness, this is so pretty. So again, I don't want to pick it up yet because I don't want to put any stress on this one that's still drying, but we have to work on our other drop. And so it's going to be, this is going to be, let me make a little space here. That's going to be my middle component, and I'm altering, like this bead component was my bottom on this side. It's going to be my top on this side, and then my component, the same beads, what I did, the two spirals, the spring spiral and the snail spiral are the same beads that I used in the stringing on the body of my necklace, the kind of the choker part. So I was sitting here, I put my 22 gauge wire through my pearl, and I was really just sitting here looking at this to kind of decide what I want to do. And it is going to be my final drop here, so I don't want a loop or anything there. And I also like both sides of these Baroque pearls are absolutely gorgeous, which makes it perfect to have them as the final drop on a necklace because it will spin around and then you can like really enjoy the beautiful shape. I'm going to embellish this pearl by bending this wire to the back, what I've deemed is the back, and I'm going to kind of make it dance around. So I'm going to just bring this around. You know, take a second when you're doing something like this to warm the wire because it really performs better for you. Let me get it like there. Kind of find the natural path of the wire, and also if there's any little spot in your natural pearl to, you know, to lay it. But I want to add some of those seed beads as an embellishment. So let me bring my little dish back in here. So again, the same seed beads that I've used, and I just had these left over from something that I did a few months back with BEADED beads. And the thing I loved about these, two things I loved about these, is it wasn't a super bright gold. The color is called champagne, and I just thought it was a beautiful gold with the check glass that I had and with the chocolate pearls, you know, the mocha mousse pearls. I just thought it was beautiful. And the other thing I love about it, I'll show you the package, galvanized, Duracoat galvanized. So if you're newer to seed beads, what that means is that this gold doesn't rub off with time. It doesn't darken. Like, it's really like a permanent finish on these seed beads. So I really like that on a piece like this that's so special. So I'm going to lay these little guys on this wire and just kind of make this wire sing around this pearl. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can get another one. A little tricky to get it started, but just go slowly. And for those of you that feel not brave to do like wire working, just remember that you can always unwrap it. If you're not liking the way the wire landed, or you know, not liking something, you can always unwrap it and go again. Okay, I'm gonna put another, I'm working in odd numbers, just chose 5. Let those drop down. I like it. I really like it. I even like the back. Let's see. See if I can keep going. I'm going to wrap around my core wire. I'm going to make a simple loop on this wire that's hanging out. And here's where I just want to see if I want to do more or if I want to stop there. And I do feel like I would really love to do more. At least one more little section of seed beads. So let me see. And you know, I do this with my heart. It's not an exact science, but I look for the natural path of the wire, like where it would naturally want to go next. That's pretty. And maybe since I'm at the skinnier, the top part of the pearl, maybe I'll just do 3 seed beads this time. It's really pretty. Yep, I like it. Oh, that is so pretty. I really like it. Get these beads down. They're going to move around a little bit. So pretty. I really like that. Let's see. I'm going to, when I have extra wire like this, to me, it is a creative opportunity. So I'm going to let it hang out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do my wire wrapped loop. Let me just check my orientation of things. I'm going to do this loop going front to back. And so let me give this a 90-degree bend and just put a normal wire wrapped loop. I'm just going to work around my wire that's hanging out here. Okay, so here's where I have my 2 wires, and it's just an opportunity for me to design. So I think what I'm going to do is take this shorter wire and cut it and tuck it. And I'm going to bring the longer wire around. I'm going to remove some of the length of that one too, but I'm going to bring that one around and add another spiral to the front of my pearl. I just want to tuck this so it's not seen. And also want to tighten up this last little coil here just gently. Okay, and I'm going to bring it around. And my idea is I'm going to move these beads up here, and I want to do like a little tiny, a really small spiral right there. So I'm going to take about that much off and just warm this. Let me get my nylon jaw pliers. It's not a kink, but there's like a little wave in there. And I want to start with a really nice straight piece of wire. So I think I'm going to try to lay a spiral right in there. So I'm going to come this way, the tip of my pliers, and make a little curve. And just push this in small increments. Just roll this all the way up to the pearl, just pushing it in small increments against my finger. Okay, I'm down to my pearl, and I'm going to also give this a funky little bend right here, this way. And then it's 22 gauge wire, so it's really easy to move your wire around with your fingers on this. I'm just going to take a few minutes to make sure that I'm happy with the way that I embellished my pearl. And I also I want it to look beautiful on the back. I want it to look beautiful on both sides. I still want to be able to see the pearl. I'm pretty happy with it. And sometimes I will go back, and I'm going to do it right here and put a twist. So I'm going to grab the wire with my pliers and just going to put a twist in it like that, and that just tightens everything down to the pearl. And I think I'm going to do one right here as well, just a little twist. It looks really pretty, but it also snuggles the wire down to your bead or your pearl. And then I don't want this to catch on anything, so I'm going to just move it up and with my thumb just push it into the pearl. So that is my final drop on this side, and I can now connect everything to this side. I think I closed. So if just mention again that I have a whole video on how to make these twisty treat beaded beads with no needle and thread. Both of these are in that video, the snail spiral and the spring spiral, and they are super fun, super easy to make, very forgiving, that you really can't make a mistake. So really cool. I may have to change my orientation, but I don't want to pick my necklace up right away because this is still drying. But this necklace is essentially done except for one more thing. Because I hammered, I told you at the beginning, but I'm going to show you what I did. Because I hammered, I have disturbed the anti-tarnish coating on this. So what I did is just took my Permalac Coating. It's a wonderful anti-tarnish coating. I always buy the semi-gloss because that way if I do brush it over a crystal or something accidentally, it doesn't cloud them. And you can even brush it over your check glass. If you have metallic beads and you're worried about the finish rubbing off, you can brush it over that too. And I also brush it over these disc spacers. They are gold plated and they're really high quality. It's something that I have replenished many times over. I really love them. But I just add that little, I just brush it like that. Just go around, and if you accidentally brush a bead or brush your pearl, this dries completely clear. You don't see it. But what I did on my chain is I just held the chain taut like that, and the parts that I made, my little S hooks, I just brushed them front and back with the Permalac. You can stick your brush, like push it into the loops that you've made, and I just did that up the chain just because I hammered all of this and I want my gold to stay shiny. And like I said, you can also like brush your check glass beads. If you're worried about a metallic bead losing its finish, you can take the Permalac and use it for that too. But I just worked my way up, letting the parts that I've brushed lay in my dish, and honestly this dries so fast. By the time I got to the other end on my other chain, it was already dry. The part I had first brushed was already dry. So this beautiful project is done. I absolutely love it. I cannot wait to wear this. I will put some pictures up at the end, and don't forget to check the description box if you saw anything that you would like for your own work. I do a the best that I can to fill that box up with information. So I hope everybody is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. And I will see you in the next video. And I am already working on video number 6 for this series. I'm so excited about it. Take care, everybody. Ciao, friends.